Would help if I turned my mic on, wouldn't it? Cool. I am on time for my stream. Even like a minute early if you look at the clock. So I'm trying a new free music or royalty-free music option, as you can see in the top right. Yeah, the top right of the screen. I found a media program that allows me to stream royalty-free YouTube videos. Well, I can input the videos that I want to use and then stream them through that. So fingers crossed that this actually works. It's a little bit quiet for me, but hopefully it works. I'll turn it up a little bit. OBS is saying already that I have an encoding overload. I was worried that that's what would happen with this, but we'll see how it goes and see what our options are. Because I don't know what else to do. But yeah. We'll see how this goes. It might go terribly because this is requiring too much juice. Whoops. And now it just disappeared. It's gonna be a lot of this. It's gonna be a lot of me trying to make this work. Because now I don't know where the overlay has gone. Showing on stream, show video, don't show video. Okay, this isn't working, so we will turn this off. What are we gonna do for music, guys? Stop that. Well, maybe let's do I don't know. I figured this plan might not work. We're still unstable. There's too much going on. Okay, we'll exit out of that. We will exit out of this. We'll see if that makes a difference. And then we will continue. Excuse me while I stare at nothing and try to figure out what I'm trying to accomplish. The other problem I was having is that a lot of the music that's just on a playlist is just not the vibe. So again, we need to figure out what to do about that. Maybe it'll work itself out. Advanced. Don't know why this is always, I have to go in and toggle this myself. Quality, pop-up player, playback issue, shortcuts. Yes, okay. Now we're 10 minutes in and this still isn't doing what I want it to do. Yeah, low latency is on, perfect. I don't know, we'll try this again because I don't know what else to do. And we'll just go from here. Anyways, show on stream, hide video, yeah, I don't know what else to do, so we'll just do this and we'll figure it out later. So, as per me indicating last time, I worked on Mothman off screen. And so now we're going to work on the Fresno night crawlers, which are also referred to as little pants creatures. Or haunted pants is the term. So maybe let me Google. I know I'm like super focusing on this, but how to fix unstable Twitch stream. Yeah, this is like, okay, low latency. Right, wired versus, well, that's not an option right now. So, we'll see. I know, there's the possibility that streaming from my laptop isn't the smartest move, but my desktop space isn't really set up for crafting. I guess I could make it as such, but I'm not sure. I don't really want to. I guess that's me just being selfish, and maybe that option will be taken out of my hands and I'll just have to deal with it, but I will persist. Oh. And we'll see how it goes. The other thing too is we have construction going on in the back garden. So it could get loud. We're meant to be getting a digger coming in to move some stuff out of the way. But so far, like, they've been jackhammering and stuff all day, and it hasn't been too crazy. So, I mean, like, too loud and disruptive. So I'm feeling confident that it won't cause any issues with my stream schedule. Reaching out to my partner because he's Mr. IT man. Maybe he can provide some insight from his office. Because I don't know what to do. Because I am not a tech person. Okay. Well, we'll just get started and we'll go from there. So first thing we might do is cut some more 320 floss, because we're definitely going to need a lot more than what we have right now. Anyway, so we'll do that. I usually like to make the floss sort of like forearm length, because that seems to be the right, like a decent length to make it manageable to work with, so it's not getting tangled, but you also find that you're not like running low or like reaching the end of your floss or your thread before you've really had a chance to make any sort of like large swath of stitches. But yeah, I guess even more so too, because I'm folding single threads in half now instead of like coupling two threads together and keeping the length. So I probably could go a little bit longer, but this is what I'm used to, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Except for my video setting in my stream, which is broke, and I don't know how to fix it. So here are all of the thread colors or floss colors that will be used eventually in the Cryptid Stitch Along. I don't have all of them laid out on my floss holder yet, because I'm kind of going as the cryptids get released. There we go. That's a little bit nicer. Let me go back to my manager on here. Cool. Let's see how it goes. Today we are drinking Fortnum and Mason's Russian Caravan, which is probably the bougiest tea that I have in my tea cupboard. Only because it's from such a bougie place. But it's really nice. It's a black tea that sort of has like a smoky flavor profile, but it's not like too overpowering, because I've had like smoky teas and like they kind of just taste like cigarettes. Like they taste like cigarettes smell. So it's a bit too much, or like you're drinking a campfire. So luckily, or this one isn't the same, like not as overpowering with its smokiness, just like enough to give it, yeah, just a really pleasant taste. Okay, so we have our floss, and again we're making a stitch we're making our first stitch unattached to anything, so it's going to require extra brain power for me. Oh hey, I think things like just kind of sorted themselves out. Perfect. Oh, never mind. Tasha just needs to leave shit alone. Just don't touch stuff. on the computer. And that should be okay. There we go. It went back to normal. Jeez. Okay. If I just chill and just do the thing, and hopefully it'll be fine. Because I'm really proud of this little setup that I've made in my crafting corner, and I don't really want to have to move it if I can avoid it. You know, I like that I have my Alice display. I like that, you know, it's quite, I don't know, like it's just close. It doesn't look like an expansive room, whereas the other setup, like, you would kind of see everything. So it just kind of feels less cozy. Whereas I feel like, I don't know, something about this feels a bit cozier than what I envision if I were to move the stream setup to another space. But we'll see. Okay. So we're going to be starting our frame, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 blank squares in between the Mothman frame and the Fresno Nightcrawler frame. But because we're doing linen of, I think it's 20 count, 24 count, it's also like 2/2. So 4 squares is more like 8 squares, if that makes sense, which is why I need to concentrate so much. So that was 2, 3, 4, I believe. Let me just let me just make a half stitch and then check my work before we continue, because I would hate to have to frog before we've even gotten started. Let me just, there we go. Okay, so 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on the 5th we have this. Okay. Cool. I think we're in the right spot. So we'll move down. I'm gonna start, I usually mark things off on like a PDF file, and that way, like on a digital pattern, so then that way I can keep track of how many stitches I've done. And so that's what I'm gonna try to do now. So like I said, we're currently doing some construction at the house. We're getting a new garage or garage, and so we are knocking down the old one because it was too small for what we wanted it for, and also where it was positioned, it wasn't allowing, like, basically we live in a space that has like really little parking except for where our garage is, and it's in like this back alley, and our garage kind of like ends and then the alleyway starts. So if anybody wants to come over and visit, they kind of can't, or they have to park like far away and sort of walk up to us. So that then makes, you know, it's a deterrent, which, you know, from an introvert perspective might be a positive thing, but it is a bit of a pain in the ass for people that you want to be hanging out with you. So we're gonna arrange it in a way that allows for people to kind of park either in our garage or in front of our garage when they come to visit. So yes, it's been really interesting though, because we thought that Shadow, our puppy dog, would lose his shit having, you know, strangers outside every day. And to be fair, he's been really, really good. Obviously, when they first come, he's very excited and he like does a lot of barking. This dog, like, never barked. And in the last little while, he's like totally found his voice. And so yeah, he's been doing that, but then being like really chill and hanging out with us. So he's actually lying down over in the corner of the room right now. We went for a big walk. Oh, W-A-L-K before stream started. So I always try to do that to make sure that he gets his exercise, and then he usually we'll come back, have a dentist stick, and then he'll have a nap. And while I stream. So it's so far working for us quite well. And then, yeah, so aside from that, speaking of Shadow, there's been very cool, exciting things happening this week. Well, this past week. So like I said, we started construction on part of the house. Last Friday, Shadow actually turned 1. It was his first birthday. So we celebrated by, we found this like doggy safe, I guess, like dog food alternative cupcake. So we had a little doggy cupcake. We made him a nice steak, medium rare steak for dinner. And he got some presents. When he was he's still a puppy. But when we first got him, my parents actually sent us a care package. So we've, like, I guess something that's really cool in the UK is there seems to be a lot of options for sending like letterbox gifts or like almost like gift baskets, but they're like themed gift boxes. I tried doing the equivalent and sending them to people in Canada, and just the variety and the options are so few and far between, whereas there's plenty of options here. So my dad found like a dog themed gift box and sent that over to us, and it contained a toy, some different treats, some food, stuff like that. And so one of the toy was actually this little stuffed monkey, and that was one of his favorite toys for the longest time. But we're pretty sure, because obviously as he's gotten bigger, and you know when dogs like have a toy in their mouth and they like really give it a good shake, we think he might have accidentally shook it so hard and like yeeted it over the fence, or like somehow, or we also have a lot of foxes in our neighborhood. They're basically like the UK equivalent of raccoons, and so they like to get into stuff. So if he has any toys or things outside, sometimes I wonder if they kind of take them and play around with them. But anyway, we noticed that monkey, his toy, ended up in our neighbor's back garden. And unfortunately, we, didn't have the wherewithal to go like and get him and stuff. So monkey doesn't exist anymore. He's somewhere else. He's maybe like some fox's play toy or something. So for his birthday, we upgraded and got him a much larger monkey that, suits the fact that now he's massive. He's like 25 kilos and like, I don't know, up to like my waist almost in terms of his height, standing on all fours. So now we call him Senior Monkey or Senior Monkey. So yeah, now he has a new monkey. So that was one of the other things that we did. And then I did, as any cute, adorable dog should, when he turned 1 year old, I got him his own Instagram account. Because why not? The majority of the stuff that I post on my socials is of him anyway, so I might as well just have like a whole page dedicated to just dumping cute pictures of him. So yeah, so Shadow the Sighthound, if you want to give that a follow. That's what I did to celebrate. Oh, I wonder if the digger is here. We're hearing a bit more noise. So in addition to Shadow's birthday, I also had a appointment so basically I am Canadian and I live in the UK, and I'm currently here on a spousal visa. So I am here on the condition that I am married to my partner, who is a British citizen. And as of right now, I've been here for almost, I think this will be my 5th year. I know because I arrived the summer that my nephew was born. So he's 4, turning 5 this year. And that's how I know how long I've been in the country, is based on how old he is or how old he's turning. So, yeah, so I've been here for 4 years. And so each visa is roughly 2 years long. So you need to apply for an extension. So my first spousal visa was set to expire. So we had to go through a process to renew it, to basically be like, yes, I'm still married to my partner. Yes, I still want to be married to my partner and continue to stay here, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, so on Friday I had the final appointment to sort of solidify all of that. So in addition to making an application, you also have, it's almost like, it's called a biometrics permit, but it's essentially like a physical representation almost of your visa. And so I had to go and like give my fingerprints, get my photo taken. Like, sounds like just as a way to have my credential or my like a DNA record. I don't know, but I had to go do that. And then once that was done, we submitted that along with my application, and I got approved on my extension, so I'm allowed to continue to be here until July 2024. Until which point I get to do this whole process over again. I think it'll be the last time, because basically there's lots of people who immigrate to to the UK, and they live here forever. And the rules associated with that, at least I don't know if it's for all visas, but for the spousal visa, is you have to be living in the UK for 5 years on this visa before you can apply for something called an indefinite leave to remain, which basically means that you are planning to live here indefinitely and the government is allowing you to do so. And then after 7 years, if you want to, you can apply for the UK citizenship, which involves doing this thing called a Life in the UK test. So, yeah, so I think I have to do this one more time, because I initially came here on a youth mobility visa. So it's this visa that's awarded, you can apply for, where it's like a work and travel visa for people that are under 30. And that lasted for 2 years. And so that one doesn't count in my stacking of visas to apply for an indefinite leave to remain. Because the idea behind a mobility visa is you're kind of just here to work, travel, study, and then you go home. It's almost like a year or two abroad, like you would kind of in a school exchange program, but it's through the government. It's a more legal thing. So of course I came over here not wanting to leave because my partner lived here. So then that's how we ended up we got married and did the whole spousal visa thing. So despite the fact of me being here on my 5th year, I have only been on my spousal visa for 4, which then requires me to apply again for an extension. And then after that extension, the next application will then be this indefinite. So, yeah, it's a lot of paperwork, a lot of time and money and stuff. But on Friday, Shadow's birthday, I did that appointment, and then by the end of the day, everything went through, and I'm allowed to stay here again, which is cool because I wouldn't want to, one, be deported because I want to stay here forever. This is my home. But also, currently where my parents live, it's minus 22 degrees outside. And that's the one thing I don't miss about Canada, is how freaking cold it is. I'm quite content with never having to experience those temperatures again. So, Yeah, so that's another reason, aside from all the other reasons why I would be glad to be able to stay here. The other one is that I don't want to be there in the cold. And, you know, traveling in general at the moment. So yeah, that's all the there's my long-winded tangent about all of the cool, exciting things that happened last week and are continuing to happen. So right now we're just working on the border. So similar to how Mothman has his border before he's in there, we got to do the Nightcrawler border first. I want to check to see like how things are going, but I don't want to click anything because then things will freak out again. But hopefully the music levels are all right. They're quite quiet on my end, but it's more for you than it is for me. Well, it's for both of us because it's something that I enjoy doing when I stitch is listen to just calming piano music. I find it soothing. There's definitely a digger outside. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's good. So there's now 13 cryptids that I need to catch up on. Well, I guess still 12 because I managed to finish the Mothman, but they released another one last week, I believe. So one step forward, another step back. But it's all forward progress. There's some people that probably haven't even started yet. I have a stitch along in my purchased patterns that's already done. Like everything's already been released. All of the pattern, all of the floss colors, everything. And I found it sort of after the stitch along happened, but I still wanted the pattern. And I think sometimes people do that as well, that they wait until the first parts of the pattern get released so that they get an idea if it like suits their aesthetic or if it's something that they're looking at investing in, because obviously not every pattern is everyone's cup of tea. I didn't know anything about, like I think I mentioned in the last week's stream that I didn't really know anything about cryptids before I signed up. This was more like a therapeutic thing for me, like a sense of kind of community building. This was one of the things that I was sort of encouraged to do by the therapist that I was seeing at the time, because I had found this group and had seen that everyone was sort of gearing up for this. And one of the things that I really was struggling with, and, you know, still kind of am, is, you know, finding that community, right? Like finding like-minded groups of people that are into similar things that you are, or get your interests, or, you know, just is like a supportive place that people like kind of check in on each other and stuff like that. And that was sort of something that I noticed that this stitching community was really was doing, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so I saw participating in this stitch along as a way to sort of start getting into that space. And yeah, it's really cool to see, even though, like, you know, like I said, I'm quite far behind, and I haven't really been like as up to date and things. It's also just really cool to see people's progress, to like have people cheer each other on. A lot of people are like making slight variations to the pattern. So I guess the Witchy stitcher who's made this stitch along actually, to a certain extent, encourages, you know, people sort of to make the make it their own. Obviously they're not like marketing it or anything like that. I'm just gonna move this because I'm like dealing with not only the cutting board, but the side of the desk like digging into me at the same time. So I'm getting like 2 indents instead of 1. So that kind of will streamline that a little bit. Cool. But yeah, so it's been really cool to see that and just kind of feel a little bit more like I'm part of something. Like I'm part of something that's really positive and is really helpful for people, as well as something that is really helpful for me. So that's why I started doing this. So I think, to be fair, it could have been anything. I think the thing that kind of sold me though was that it was like a very Victorian inspired pattern. So even though I didn't know anything about cryptids or didn't like have a previous fascination with them, something I do and did have a fascination with is like Victorian-esque things. I've always been drawn to like steampunk imagery and Victorian style stuff. I went through this giant rabbit hole about like in fascination with Victorian asylums. It's still something I find really interesting. And a lot of the sort of comparisons or the ways that like sanitariums and, you know, like sanitariums and psychiatric facilities as being places that were used to control people, less so than to provide them actual help. So especially like in the Victorian era, that's when like the term hysteria became a thing, and it was like really tied to the oppression of women and anybody who was different. Obviously that extends far beyond just women. And yeah, so that was this thing, and I drew a lot of parallels to that. And like, I don't know if it's just me, but obviously when you are somebody who struggles or has, you know, a mental illness or, you know, struggles with their mental health, you sometimes wonder, or at least I would sometimes wonder, especially with this fascination with Victorian asylums, you know, if I was born in that time period, how I would probably have ended up in a place like that. If not for the actual, you know, anxiety and depression of it all, because I am a loudmouth and don't subscribe to, you know, patriarchal ideologies of women need to sit down and shut up. So I feel like that would have gotten me in trouble back in that day. And so, yeah, so that then extended obviously into this. That was a key word for me, Victorian, in terms of picking up and wanting to be a part of this stitch along. Okay. Cool. Part 1 of this frame. Ugh. Got extra thread in there. So, in addition, there we go. Cool. So yeah, in addition to, you know, trying to figure out my CPU video audio stream bitrate quality shenanigans, I've also updated my my homepage, I guess, is that what it's called? My profile page, my Twitch page with panels. That's a thing that I decided to learn a little bit more about today. So if you want to go check those out, that would be really chill. And then I think my next thing, I'm slowly learning about all this kind of stuff, because as much as I love, you know, I've watched streams before and I participated in streams before and stuff, like it feels like a bit of a steep learning curve. It's not just, at least from like, you know, trying to grow something on Twitch, is it's not just, you know, plug in some mics and some videos and like do the thing. Like there's a lot of sort of behind the scenes admin-y kind of stuff that I'm learning about. So learning about like panels and learning about emotes and learning about linking stuff and like alerts and things like that. So today I figured panels, and then the next step will maybe be alerts. And then the other thing too though is I feel like the more of this stuff that I add to the stream, the more it's probably going to impact my audio, video, frame rate stuff. So that will also have to be an ongoing thing that I figure out. But it looks really cool. And so that will be an interesting thing to explore. It's just funny how it's not, you know, I guess it's like with any creative endeavor that you're trying to start up yourself, right? It's not just like, here's this creative thing that I do, like, be a part of it. It's like, here's the thing, and then here's all this back end stuff to go just to like give you a fighting chance to even get people to see what's going on and to see the creative thing that you're doing. So I'm learning all of this as we go, and so far so good. Geez, this hour is on, well, it's 40 minutes in, 45 minutes in. This has gone by fast. Mind you, I spent the first like 15 minutes of it faffing about with my video, but time flies when you're having fun. Oh yeah, let me just mark off everything I've done so I don't get lost and confused as I am wont to do. Perfect. Save that. On to the next. Okay. So this one was easy to kind of just do this straight away because I knew that I could like figure out where to stop based on this pattern. So it gave me a stopping point. This is going to require more counting and stopping and counting on my end, so that I get all of the pieces, because there's jumping out and stuff, so it's not just a straight line like it was last time, unfortunately. Okay. There we go. Can't tell if music stopped or is just real quiet. I'm afraid to touch things. Oh yeah, Stream Elements has stopped. Play. Here we go. That one might have already played, but that's fine. There we go. Yeah, so again, another thing is still trying to figure out the music situation of it all. I've found like there's a few different options in terms of like royalty-free streaming software or streaming kind of extensions, and you know, rightfully so, but I don't have that capacity at the moment. There are a lot of subscription-based ones, and so obviously right now, just starting out, I can't really justify something like that until I know kind of what I'm going to do and what my setup's going to look like. But that's definitely an option down the road, because it would be really nice to have like a dedicated platform that you know has consistent music and that you know has all this kind of stuff. and that you can control the playlists and things like that. Because some of the things that I'm finding is, you know, I'm like Googling sort of, oh, this is generically what I want, and then people go on and they go, here's a playlist, and it's like every third song is maybe what I'm going for. So it'd be nice to be able to control that. So I tried to with this. It's working so far, but you have to manually like input every single link to every song, which is a little bit time consuming. But again, we are learning. We are just trying to figure it out. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cool. Maybe what I'll do is I'll make the little corner section, and then that'll give us a bit of a base to start off of. There we go. Yeah, so similar to the Mothman frame, the Fresno Nightcrawler frame also has these little accent corners. So if I make that, just makes it more interesting for myself. And I find too, it makes it easier to follow along when you can see sort of like it's almost like a stitching landmark in a way, where you're like, okay, this is the part that I'm stitching towards, or it sort of like frames everything. Because when it's just straight lines and stuff, you sort of can almost like go on autopilot, where you're just stitching and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, like this was supposed to then go out to the left, or this was supposed to do whatever. And then you end up frogging. So I like to do these little mental tricks, like, you know, bulk out a section to sort of give me a frame of reference. And then that way, it's not as, I'm less likely, at least this is how I justify it, I'm less likely to make mistakes because I have a frame of reference to sort of stitch around, as opposed to just like a straight line. Because a lot of these sections, especially like, you know, frames and stuff, it's so repetitive. And so you're like, oh, this is easy, that's cool, I'll just whip through it. And then next thing you know, everything's off by 1. And we don't want that. No, we do not. I'd rather spend stream getting things accomplished and not, you know, just doing things and then having to rip it all apart afterwards. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then that way, there we go. We know what we're doing. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Spend the majority of this just doing a bunch of counting. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Maybe after we sort of get this corner done, I'll go read the little Fresno Nightcrawler blurb. Because that's another thing that just the care, just the attention to detail that like the Witchy Stitcher has gone over with their pattern is, you know, providing little info pieces about each cryptid, which I really appreciate. Because again, like if you don't know anything about these, it just provides a nice little jumping off platform. And then if you wanted to go, you know, dive in a little bit more, then you could. We'll also have a little shadow break as well. I'll show you what he's up to. He's sleeping very peacefully. was interesting when I was trying to find like calm, peaceful piano music. I think a lot of the music that exists in those sorts of playlists is like jazz based, and it's very like poppy and upbeat and stuff, which is awesome, but again, not the vibe. So it seems like using kind of fantasy and like mythical taglines for things when I've noticed searching for music to plug into here. That seems to be what gives you the sort of calm, ethereal vibes. So that's good to know. Because this one, like right now, it definitely sounds like it would be in the background of like a fantasy scene in a fantasy film or TV show. So we're getting there. We're getting there. All right. Cool. So we've done these corners. And these corners. And we've done to here. So we're gonna now go and create our little corner accent section. Ooh, there you go. Going to the eye doctor at the end of the month because I'm pretty sure I'm having a harder time like seeing things from far away. You know, and you're like, when I go out with shadow and things and you see like road signs or like just various signage out in the distance, I find it's taking me a lot longer, or I have to walk a lot closer to them for them to not be fuzzy and to like have clarity about it. So I'm gonna go hopefully get that sorted out. I'm only reminding me of it because like I'm having to do this squinty thing with this, but that's because I'm trying to keep it out in frame but also be able to see what I'm doing because the holes are tiny. Oh, it was so funny the other day. I was actually working on this. I was finishing off the Mothman, and I just like point blank stabbed myself in the thumb. And like, cause usually, you know, you accidentally do whatever, but I think I was just like fiddling with the fabric or doing something like that, and then just like point blank straight up and down stabbed my thumb. Oh, it hurt like a bitch. And then I forgot about it, and I was flossing my teeth later that night and holding it in between like my thumb and forefinger, and I'm like, why the F does my thumb hurt? And I'm like, right, totally stabbed it earlier today. So that just reminded me of that. And it took a while. Like it's still, oh no, I think it's finally okay, but it took a couple of days of me like, this is sore. But it's not the first time, and it definitely won't be the last. I think any of your crafting that involves sharp implements, you've probably maimed yourself on it at one point or another. I'd be very surprised if like somebody who has a passion and made things that require anything like scissors, nails, hammers, anything like that has not implemented them on their person at some point. Hurt themselves with the thing at some point in time. And if they hadn't, then I bet they're lying. Even like dumb stuff that like you wouldn't even think. I feel like people probably hurt themselves with it. Oh, sad piano, ambient music. There we go. That's the other thing I noticed too, that a lot of the like music that I find nice and peaceful and calming, it's written down as like sad and gloomy and depressing music. And I don't know if that just says something about me. That, you know, I find this quite nice, but it's sad. There we go. Boom. We have our little accent corner. There we go. Oh. Gotta stretch it out. Here, let's see if we can spy the puppo. There he is. He's hiding. It's like he has all these nice blankies set up for him. And he's like, no, I'm gonna lay straight on the floor. I think sometimes he gets too hot, and so then he moves around. Seems to be his new favorite place right now. He ends up in there quite a lot. When I came to bed last night, because my partner had to go to work early in the morning, so he went to bed early. And usually when I come up after them, like they're both in bed, because Shadow sleeps in our bed. We tried to make that not a thing when he was a puppy, and even my in-laws were like, because they had a dog up until last year. He sadly passed away. And they were like, yeah, you try. And for about 6 months, you're like really good about it. And then, no, it'll happen. And so what would happen was we would want Shadow to fall asleep like in his bed, like in his dog bed, not with us, so that we could fall asleep. Because he's like very twitchy and turny and stuff like that. And we wanted to make, you know, we wanted to be able to fall asleep before any of that happened. But then, of course, he was just jumping on the bed once we fell asleep. And it's like, well, we're asleep unless we wake up and, you know, deal with it. Like, it's, you know, there's nothing we can do about that. So then we just kind of made the decision, like, no, actually, it's quite nice. But both him and my partner are basically furnaces. So it makes for quite a warm sleeping environment. But yeah, so anyway, I went up there and he wasn't there. And usually sometimes he'll be like lying on the floor in the bedroom because, again, trying to cool down and stuff. No, he was over in the corner he's at now. He kind of goes through phases where he's like, this is my spot. And then he'll be like, now this is my spot. Basically, the whole house is his spot. And then he will make the determination of, you know, which is the favorite of the time. But I wouldn't have it any other way. Oh, it stopped. Oh, it's just the tail end of the song. On to the next, on to the next. One, two, three, four. Okay, now we're gonna do some jumping around. This is where we get wild in the stitching, in our stitching. So we're gonna continue on with this pattern. And then we're gonna jump around. Jump, jump, and get down. Right here. And we're gonna do some extra embellishy stuff. Okay. Such concentration. Probably should have done that other fancy stuff earlier on. Oh well, we did this tiny little guy, and then we'll add the other ones after. Maybe once we finish this floss, we'll then switch. There you go. Now it just kind of looks like a fancy R. Cool. Or like this part looks like part of an elephant missing its ear. Ooh, oh no, oh no. Ugh. Almost had to rethread that. That would have been a disaster. Okay. I spoke too soon. Damn it, I cursed it. Oh well, we'll just mark off the sections we've done. And then we'll keep going. Damn. First hour down. We are doing well, team. Okay, I think this might be the last one of this thread, just because it's getting a little short. So some other exciting things in my stitching zeitgeist. So in terms of creative stuff, so, you know, we've talked about life updates and things like that, but in terms of creative updates, one of my goals for this year is to create my own patterns. I did one last year. I made like a witchy themed patch for my mother-in-law to go on one of her purses, and that was really cool. But I hadn't really had any other ideas since that. And then I just kind of really sat down and thought about it, because I was thinking about, you know, different financial income streams, because as much as the world, or as much as the news coverage of the world is indicating that things are safe or things are quote unquote normal, in the same breath they're talking about how things are out of control. But I still personally don't feel safe out in the world in, I guess, what I would consider a traditional job market. Last year I was working retail, and for me, like, when it comes to looking for a job or like a place of work, you know, I've gone through, like when I was younger, I thought, this is what I want to be when I grow up, went to school, got all the credentials, did whatever. And then, of course, this was in Canada. And then, of course, I moved here. And I think even before I moved here, like I was finishing grad school and the idea was that I was going to move here anyway. And even before I finished, I was kind of like, I'm not kind of sure what I want to do with this. And, I'm not so invested in like a particular area that I could see myself like totally diving into this. And with that, one of the things that I've realized, in doing what I thought I wanted to do and then working out that it was a bit too much for me or it wasn't really my cup of tea or anything like that, was that it kind of doesn't matter to me what I'm doing in a way. It's more about the atmosphere and the people that I work with. So I really struggle to push through. I think if you are super passionate about something and you're super invested in the kind of work that you do, it's almost like that is worth all the bullshit if you have, a really unsupportive working environment or you don't get along with your colleagues or it's just like not, it's something that's really difficult for you. And I find that I'm not passionate about something that I'm able to push through a shitty work environment. Despite all, you know what I mean? Like in order to persevere at the thing that I'm passionate about, because I don't have that sort of thing. So anyway, through some trials and tribulations, I ended up working in retail. And first I started out as a temp and then, I ended up going back to Canada for a bit to visit family and that ended and whatever. But anyway, so a workaround of it ended up me ending up back there because I really enjoyed the people that I worked with. I really enjoyed, the product that I was selling. It was, something that I could believe in, like, to the extent that you can believe in like a product that you're trying to sell. Obviously it helps that you like what you're trying to sell to people. But it wasn't really about that. It was about, I had a really cool manager. Everybody that was there was like super supportive. There was no like bitchiness. There was just, really good vibes. To the point where, again, working in retail, you have to deal with like shitty customers and stuff. And there'd be days that were bad. But like all in all, I was like, I could theoretically do this forever. Like, yeah, sure. Like I'll work part-time in this environment forever because these are the people that I really like and I get along with them. And then, of course, the pandemic hit and the thought of, you get... Basically, I worked in like a jewelry store and, within a jewelry store, people try stuff on, we had like a cleaning service. We did stuff like that. So we were sort of, it wasn't like hands off, where some retailers, you're just kind of there to ring up the clothes or whatever. You help people with a little bit, but like we were actively, providing a service to people. And therefore we had to like interact with them. We were like touching them, like helping to put, that kind of stuff. And it just felt like too much. And so it's been over a year now, but like just over a year ago, I had to leave because I was having panic attacks before I was meant to go in for my shift. And then I ended up obviously having to call in sick because I don't know if you've ever had a panic attack or an anxiety attack and your whole body is just totally drained. And like, I have a hard time. There's some people that it's like, if you're in a shitty mood, you can put on a brave face and like push through and like it's not written all over your face. You can just sort of get through it. My emotions are all over my face all the time, especially when they're negative ones. It's like, I think with anxiety, especially if you're trying to get through an anxious situation, your body's kind of like on autopilot, just trying to get through it. And so if anybody were to ask me, like, are you okay? What's wrong? Like, if that, that would just trigger the waterworks if I was trying really hard to keep myself together. So that just became unsustainable for me. And now with, the quote unquote normalcy of it all, I don't think I could ever work in retail again based on, at least, there'd have to be a lot that changes, or a lot, normal would have to go back much more normal than it is now in order for me to feel safe doing that. And like, it's hard because there wasn't an outbreak in the store, like nobody that we worked with got it or anything like that. And so logically, there was no reason for me to be as upset or as anxious about the situation as I was, because logically everything on paper would state that it was fine. We were doing everything right. Nothing had happened. But with something like the ever-present fear of transmission of a thing, like, it's like an invisible thing. Like it's this unknown that literally floats in the air at all times, and so you don't really know. It's hard to have. And one of the things, like one of my anxiety triggers, is uncertainty. And I think especially now with the rules constantly changing, and like things are being said one thing but they're actually something else, like there's just so much uncertainty, which makes me almost want to double down on what I can control, which is, staying inside, not going out to places that are super public, not like, just so many things, because that's something that I can control. That was a real convoluted tangent of basically saying that, I'm not ready to be in a traditional work setting, even if it was, remote working to start. It's like, if there's any potential pressure that at some point I would have to go into an office setting or something like that, or interact with clients or do something like that, I don't know if that's for me. And I would feel like it would be unfair to an employer to be like, yeah, hire me, but if I hate this, I might leave. That's not, like I don't feel like that's fair to an employer to hire somebody on like a permanent, even if it's a part-time basis, or even like a seasonal thing, because even seasonal work is for a few months. And if I'm like, shit, this isn't working, that would just be, that would be rude. So my goal is to try and create, possible income streams for myself or financial opportunities from home. And one of the ways I'm looking to do that is to develop my own cross-stitch patterns that I could then sell as a way to do that. So so that's something that I'm working on now, and I'm really excited about. I have like 3 pattern ideas. So one that I've done that I'm currently stitching. So I'm trial stitching it to see if it actually works. If the settings, like if the instructions are easy to follow, if the colors are right, if it's the right size, like that sort of thing. And if that goes well, then I will release that. And that would be another exciting kind of creative avenue for me. So that's something I'm going to try to do a little bit more of. Because one of the things that I was looking into was obviously selling completed cross-stitch patterns. And with that involves, asking permission from the pattern makers, because obviously you buy a pattern and that's yours. for you, and usually that's for personal use only. So some artists, some pattern makers are okay with you selling completed works of their art, essentially. Some are not. And so it's kind of a dick move if you just blanketly assume that it's okay for you to do that. So one of the things that I want to do is obviously contact the people based on the patterns that I own and see if that's something that they would do. But, seeing as, for instance, working on something like this, it's not the amount of time it takes to make something versus the amount of money that somebody would be prepared to give you for the thing that you made isn't always worth it. So that's something that I'm still looking at wanting to do, but there's a lot more. It'll take a lot longer to generate that, and it won't be as consistent or a bit more few and far between. Whereas pattern generation, you make one thing and then you have unlimited or, infinite opportunities to sell that product because it's not a one-off thing. It's just a digital pattern that can be downloaded as many times as, people buy it. Whereas, there's only one completed cross-stitch work for however long. But yeah, so that's just the optics. It's something that I've been looking into and wanting to, explore a bit more. And again, like I had mentioned, this cross-stitch group, the Witchy Stitchers cross-stitch group, has actually been really helpful. One of the things that I really like about, different groups or communities is especially if there's a search option. So there's a search option that Facebook has that you can look through previous posts and stuff. And so a lot of people have already asked, what's, the best software to make your own patterns? Has anyone had an experience selling completed cross-stitch? Like, what was that like? How did you do it? Blah, blah, blah. And that's, again, a really cool thing that, being part of a community is about, is it's like you get to share that information and share that knowledge, and then people can, do with that what they will. And I really appreciate that. Oh no, we got stitching tea. It's cold. It's also really cold in here. Like it's not on. Oh, I'm gonna have to boost the heat or put my jumper on. I might go do that. Let me just park this here. I will BRB. Much better. Oh, got this. It's a huge hood. That's what they're called. And this one has little marshmallow boys on them. I have 3 huge hoods. One with a hood. It's a bright red one that says naps and snacks. Because if you know me, I am both the nap queen and the snack queen. And then I have just another black one that has a popcorn on it. And then this one that I got recently is the softest one. And it actually has a pocket. Like, how hoodies usually have like that center pocket in them. So this one is a Hoodless Hoodie. And I don't know what it is, if this is just their newest line, but the lining in it is so soft. And you got a pocket. My mom refers to it as the lip chap pocket or the lip gloss pocket. Because, when you're crafting and you need your lip chap and your hand lotion and maybe your glasses and your phone. And it'll all fit in this pocket. So, highly recommend if you want like an oversized, snuggly thing to keep you warm. It was actually a targeted Facebook ad. There's been a few instances where like targeted Facebook ads have paid off. It was with the huge hoods, and then I got these shoes that are like outdoor kind of camping shoes from Voided. it's Voyage UK, and they do like outdoor camping things, and I basically have these like clogs that I can slip on and off to go outside, especially when Shadow was a puppy, and like he was so tiny. Now he just like clears steps into our backyard, but he needed help like up and down the stairs, and so it was like, instead of having to, I want to just like quickly slide things on to go outside, and want it to be like all seasons, right? Like, so I'm not going to wear flip-flops in the winter, even if it doesn't snow and get down to minus 27 degrees in the UK. It's still cold. I don't want that. So these are a nice alternative because they're nice and fuzzy. They're like down filled, the like cover of them. So very nice. But yeah, every once in a while. And then it was so funny because when my mom and dad came to visit, of course, my mom started getting targeted ads that were UK based. And so she found a few. So we ended up ordering like clothes from BAM. So it's like a bamboo clothing company. And that stuff was really great. Yeah, so every once in a while, like some are sketchy as hell. And like it's pretty obvious how sketchy some of these targeted ads are. But then others, not bad. So, and the other thing that my mom also loved too is that, shipping was like maybe a couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks max. Unlike Canada, where depending on where it's shipping from, it can take a long time. So she was living her best life, just like ordering stuff, got shipped to the house. She was like, ooh, check it out, all my orders. But it's funny because our neighbor also orders a lot online, but they don't have, like a lot of houses here have like a front porch where if you're not home, they can like keep it in like a secure location. But our neighbors don't have that. So we end up having a lot of their parcels because, we're good neighbors. We'll hold on to them for them so they don't get like stolen or anything. And so sometimes we would get deliveries, and when my mom was visiting, she would get all excited, like, oh, is that my parcel? And I'll be like, oh, it's the neighbors. Oh, no, it's the neighbors. So that frustrated her. But eventually she got her stuff, and it was very good. So that was fun. Well, this is quite a twinkly mix. Hopefully the music is a decent volume. There we go. Do, 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 do. So what have we done now? These ones. Cool. I remember when this pattern first came out and they released the second one, people were sort of like, oh my god, is this like a typo or is this an error? Because if you can see, like this one ends a little bit higher than this one, and so then it throws off the little like peaks and stuff. And so everyone's like, oh my god, is this a typo? Is this a typo? And so they had to release like a trust the pattern, trust the process. There's a reason, because obviously all of the cryptids are different shapes and sizes, and therefore they need different frames and stuff like that. So to be fair, there have been like some legitimate errors that then have been they've been, addressed and stuff. But this one was funny. Everyone was like, oh my goodness. So now I'm learning to, trust the process and that everything will be good. Because, obviously, like when you just have two of them and you just see that they're off, that can be a bit of an eyesore. But I've seen, obviously, like now people are all up to date with 13 cryptids that have been released, and you wouldn't know, like, it all cohesively looks like a completed pattern, and that's what you want. So yeah. I still can't unsee this as like an elephant trunk. And I'm not mad about it. Most of the digger is gone. Seems very quiet outside now, which is all good. I never kind of know, like, well, like my partner has been sort of, the bells have only been here for a couple of days, but my partner is sort of like the one who's liaising with them. So when he had to go in the office today, I was like, what's the protocol? What's the procedure? Because also as somebody who, you know, doesn't like approaching strangers and things like that, you don't know, right? It's like, you know, do I just leave them to their job? Like, I think I offered them a cup of tea. That seems to be like the nice hospitable thing to do. But then it's like, am I, you know, their secretary for the rest of the day? And I'm just like popping out and seeing if they need anything and like sort of that sort of thing. I wasn't sure. I'm not used to this, but yeah, it's going so far. So good. There's been no complaints. I feel like if they had beef, then they would let me know. I'm not sure. But yeah, I never know, like, when people are when builders or, like, contractors or things are, like, in your house, like, how do you just, like, ignore them? Like, oh, they're just, like, you know, let them do their job and let paint dry, or do you, like, go interact with them? Because sometimes I think when people are, like, in the middle of doing something, it's like, get away from me, like, let me do my job. But then other times, it's like, I'm sure they want to have, like, a chit-chat and things. So I guess it depends on the person on both ends. Because I feel like I would be the kind of person, like, you know, I'm doing my job. Go away, let me do my job. But that's because I don't like talking to strangers. Which is hilarious because, you know, now I'm streaming on the internet for a bunch of strangers. But I don't know, there's something, like, it's just different. Like, I always compared it to, like, when I was dating, and to approach somebody IRL and, like, make the first move, if you will, or, like, compliment them or something like that. Like, nope. I remember, like, that's always the thing I always struggled with, like, when I was at uni and things, and, like, wanting... This sounds really sad, but, like, wanting to be friends with people because I thought they were cool and stuff like that. And it's almost like I'd want to, like, Jedi mind trick them to be like, you want to come over and talk to me. Like, once somebody starts talking to me, I'm like, cool, we're best friends. Like, this is amazing. But for me to be the first one to come and talk to you, I'm like, I don't want to bother you. Like, you know, this person probably has enough friends. Like, they don't need another one. Or, like, I don't know, maybe... You know, if they're busy, I don't want to bother them and stuff like that. So that's very intimidating to me. Whereas, like, online, like, when I was doing, you know, dating apps and different things like that, it's like I would have no problem. It's just, I know that there's negatives to, you know, people feeling like they can hide behind a screen and then they have no filter. And that's obviously, like, where trolls and things come from. The online ones, not the mythological ones. But for, you know, people like me who struggle with, you know, making first contact, whether it be a romantic or a friendship related thing, I found them quite helpful because you had, like, built-in icebreaker options, or you just, like, felt bolder. Like, I felt even that way, like, on MSN. I remember, like, MSN back in the day where, like, you know, I had friends on there that I would chat to that, like, I knew in real life, like, I knew of them, but, like, we didn't talk in person. I think a lot of, like, 90s, 2000s kids probably have those memories where you're, like, you almost have, like, a person that you're super into, or somebody who even, like, you have a crush on, or they have a crush on you, and you, like, flirt online, and then you just basically pretend the other person doesn't exist when you're in person. And that's just... I don't know, like, that's the beauty and the curse of online stuff. But yeah, for some reason, you know, being able to essentially, like, hide behind a camera but still talk to everybody, and this seems less intimidating to me than going up to a random person on the street and being like, I like your hair, or I think, you know, your clothes look cool, or something like that. It just, yeah, it seems harder. And maybe that's, you know, why introverts flock to the internet. I'm not sure. That's my theory. We're too awkward in real life. So we just, there's like an awkwardness filter. So, don't know. We might not actually get to the physical night crawler today. But that's okay. I don't know if it's better for me. I'll finish the frame definitely off stream. And then maybe I'll start the night crawlers again next week, and we'll actually like finish them. But yeah, I was thinking about that, but I maybe should have done the frame first, because you're not actually seeing any night crawler, are you? I know I keep talking about the night crawler, but I don't actually know what it is. Besides that, it's called the Fresno night crawler, so I'm assuming that it's been seen in Fresno. So why don't we take a quick break, take a stretch break, and I will read you the description of the Fresno night crawler according to the Witchy Stitcher's research. So, the Fresno nightcrawler, also known as the Fresno alien or haunted pants, which you'll see when we finally start to stitch them, have been spotted in Fresno, California, and in Yosemite National Park. Though there has only been a few sightings, they have amassed quite a cult pop culture following. They appear to be relatively short creatures, about 1.5 meters, with most of their height being made up of their legs, as they possess an extremely small upper body. It is an extremely thin white humanoid with no arms. As a cryptid, little is known about it. Its presence in grainy security camera footage leaves more questions than answers, but you have to admit they are creepy yet adorable. So that is what the Fresno Nightcrawler is. So hopefully, well, not hopefully, by next stream, next week, you will get to see why they are also called haunted pants. Because they basically just look like pants with eyes. If you, like, have the legs of the pants and then you have, like, the torso part where, like, the zipper on, like, your pants and stuff would be. Imagine that section having two eyes and no, like, zip or whatever. That's basically what a nightcrawler looks like, according to this. But, yeah, so that's that. I think a lot of the cryptids, I can't remember, but I think some of them are international, but a lot of them are US based, at least within this pattern. And I don't know if that's, well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why cryptids are more of a thing. I don't know if it's maybe because a lot of other, like, creatures and stuff in other countries are more part of, like, mythological folklore. Like, here, for instance, or just, you know, in my own personal interest, because I love forests and I love going for hiking in the woods and stuff. One of the things that I always say to my partner is, like, whether or not fairies live here. You know, where I'm like, definitely there's forest spirits here. There's fairies, like, and there's some forests around here where you're like, you don't seem old enough, or there's, you know, there's too much deforestation, or it's too close to, like, one of the major highways and stuff. I'm like, I don't think fairies live here. But in other forests, I'm like, hell yeah, there's definitely fairies and forest spirits in these woods. So that isn't technically a cryptid. So I wouldn't, whereas I don't know why most of the, like, weird creature sightings in the US are cryptids. Well, that's my theory, that most of them are cryptids, and then maybe around here or in other parts of the world, because we, you know, the culture and the history is much more ancient, I guess, that would be what they refer to them as. I know, obviously that's, like, from a colonized standpoint, the Americas are just as old, if not older, than, you know, European, Asian, like Asia places, stuff like that. Because there's obviously the indigenous populations, and they have their own spirituality and things that have what their versions of like mythical creatures and stuff would be. I know there's been a bit of, I don't know, like maybe bastardization or commodification of indigenous spirits and things falling under like cryptid categories and stuff like that. But that's not accurate. And yeah. But yeah, so that's, I think, cryptids and mythology and like spiritual beings are different. It's almost like everything is like a mythological or spiritual creature, but some are cryptids and some aren't. Or there is some overlap with them, and in other instances there isn't. Like, I don't think there's any mythological or spiritual basis for the Fresno Nightcrawler or for the Mothman. Those are just cryptids, whereas other creatures might be might have some parallels between other creatures that exist within the mythological or spiritual categories. Or maybe they're all very distinct and it's, you know, society that gets them muddled. Like, for instance, a lot of the indigenous creatures, some people will refer to as cryptids, and it's like, well, they're not. That's a different thing. So, yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting, though. Like, I'm sure they exist, but I would actually be really interested in, like, a mythological or, yeah, I don't know, because I think, too, like, I was just saying, like, a mythological creature-based stitch-along similar to this. But then, too, you get sort of, I think there's so much to choose from, even more so than there would be, like, the cryptids, because I know that, you know, not all of them made it onto this pattern. But to narrow it down, or to almost pick, like, if you want to follow, like, Greek mythology, or do you want to follow Norse mythology, or do you want to follow, you know, different things like that. I feel like it's probably, you'd probably have to do like very specific mythologies or very specific like regions of the world and the creatures that populate, you know, like the Eastern European mythical creatures, or like Chinese or like East Asian mythical creatures or something like that. Like, I think they all probably have very unique, rich cultural depictions or different, you know, spiritual mythical creatures that they would need their own cross stitches. They couldn't all just be, you know, narrowed down into one. But yeah. Okay, so we've done this bad boy. So now, in this instance, I've done the loop stitch with one thread folded in half, and now I have two separate threads. So what I could do is obviously do the two separate threads and find a way to, you know, do the old school method where you kind of pinch it and then stitch over it to sort of secure the loose bit of thread. But these ones seem long enough that I can probably fold them in half and do just a smaller whip stitch or smaller loop stitch. So that's what I'm going to do. You still asleep over there, bud? Well, do we need to refresh the music again? Let me check. Yes, I believe we do. And again, everything is overloaded. I'm sorry. There we go. We're back at it. Okay. Back to the pattern, back to the pattern. But yeah, so I think if this was any shorter, I probably wouldn't attempt this. But it's long enough that we can probably get a few stitches in. And I can actually do the little accent pieces in this corner of the frame. Oh, almost lost my ends back through here. There we go. Oh, I don't think I finished this little loop. Shit. No, I did not. Interesting. Well, we'll just have to finish that now then, won't we? I think I was like sourcing out how to do the path to these other ones when I was doing this originally, and then just stopped short, which is silly. Oh, is that gonna look really weird now though? Because there's like a crossover. Yeah, sometimes you can like kind of see the threads poking through the fabric. Fuck it. I don't think it's that jarring of a thing. Okay. There we go. So yeah, this was like the perfect size loop thread. If anything, I probably could have done a little bit more, but this was a good size to just kind of do this little section. There we go. Oh, am I gonna try to do these ones too? Maybe. Do I have enough thread for it? Yes. Because when we just go off script and it looks really, like it looks really clean from the front. I think sometimes with the weave you can sometimes like see the threads underneath, especially dark ones, to like dark threads under a light fabric. But there's going to be like little accents anyway, and I think you could do like an individual stitch, but it's like it doesn't hold as well. At least I find I haven't quite worked out a way to make it feel secure enough to kind of just do a single stitch. So, and then it just kind of feels like wasteful. But I don't know. I guess if you just did a single stitch versus like if you're doing one stitch and then your back thread is like moving all over the Aida cloth or the linen, you then end up losing thread, obviously, because it's being used to travel in between the stitches. But I don't know. We have tons of 310, so tons of black thread. So I'm not super worried about it. So we'll see. We'll see when we get there. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get further along the pattern, where it's quite, there's like little kind of accent stitches that are like single stitches or like a few stitches together. I know. There we go. Boom. There we go. Fancy little curly cues and flourishes. Yeah, okay. Just had a brain fart being like, oh, is this going in the right direction? But it is. Excellent. Perfect. I don't think I'll have enough to finish that whole 3 lines, so we'll just finish this stitch there. Hey, bud. You decided to come join us. A little bit. He's like playing hard to get. It's like, I want to be involved, but I'm gonna look away. Aren't you? Whoop. Go. Hey. Nice of you to join me. You got a little bit of bedhead. Say hi, bud. He's still very sleepy, as you can tell. Yeah, did we have a nice walk? We did earlier, didn't we? There we go. Okay. So it's been very black. Well, it's been a completely black work heavy stream. But hey ho. So, like I mentioned, I'll finish the frame off screen, and then that way next week we can just jump straight into the actual night crawlers themselves, and we won't just be making tons and tons of black stitches that don't look like anything. Oh. There we go. But not sure. I'm enjoying this. It's actually really good because it gives me like a good 2 solid hours to actually work on this. Oh. The PC fans are yelling at me. But yeah, it gives me a good like 2 hours every week to work on this, which is nice because, like I said, trying to do like my own patterns and work on other things, this is a good one to do. But I'm also open to working on other projects as well during streams. I don't know if I should switch it up and do something different. Maybe if I get to a point where I start streaming on different days, then, you know, Tuesdays can be cryptid days, and then maybe I'm thinking of doing maybe like a Thursday evening. So then Thursday evenings will be something else, possibly. Okay, let's see where we're at. But yeah, that's the goal. That's the idea. And then even like maybe going beyond cross stitching. Like I need to update my tea collection list. So I have a tea list of all of the teas I have in my tea cabinet, and it is very outdated because I made it my mission over the last year to try to finish many of the teas that have been in the cupboard since I moved here. I actually brought tea with me when I moved because I had quite the tea collection and I was not leaving it behind. So I don't know if you know this or realize this, but tea actually does have an expiry date on it. I don't know how much truth there is to it because obviously if you keep it sealed in like a relatively like airtight container, then it doesn't really do anything. I think maybe the flavor can like get stale, but anyway, so I definitely had some hella expired teas in the tea cupboard, but I've finished the majority of them now. I think all of those ones at least. These are all just like new teas or teas that I've had for a little bit. So I need to make a new list. I need to update it. I need to zhuzh it up. So I was thinking of maybe doing that on stream, making it fancy. I got like really cute stamps, you know, like just making a day of it. And that's something we could definitely completely finish in one stream session. Like I'm not going to work on a list like for more than 2 hours. That just seems, unless I'm like, you know, basically making a whole ass scrapbook page for it, which is possible, but I don't think that that's what I want to do with it. So yeah, so that's another option. So we've got plenty of things that we could be doing, but for now, definitely I'm gonna keep working on this bad boy. Because I'm enjoying myself. Hopefully you're enjoying myself too. You're enjoying myself. You're enjoying it too. And yeah, just have some chill, calm, tea drinking, crafting vibes. That's all we're trying to do here. Let's just create a calm, chill, anxiety-free space. Because that's what stitching is for me. That's what drinking tea and listening to piano music is for me. And, you know, if that's something that you resonate with, hopefully you continue to stick around. So, okay, we got 5 minutes left. We'll do a few more of these. So definitely, for now, like at least as a minimum, I'll be here once a week, 3 to 5 GMT, which is basically like British time. And yeah, we'll continue working on this. And I will continue to hopefully make good progress. Because like I said, there's been 13 cryptid releases and we are working on the second. So still hella behind. But that also means that we have lots of stitching content. And my goal, don't know when it's, you know, how long my goal is till, but obviously, you know, until I achieve it. But actually, how about we say by the end of the month? Maybe? I would say by my birthday. That's in March. I would hope that I've reached this goal. But my goal is to get 10 followers in, you know, the next couple months. You know, 2 followers, or not 2. Maybe like 5 followers a month if we do by the end of February. February is a short month. That would be super chill. And I would really appreciate that. Yeah, because I just want, you know, to grow this space and foster a safe space and chill community for whoever would like to be a part of it. And, you know, followers allow more people to see it. I think, you know, the more followers you have, the more likely people are gonna see you pop up in their like recommendeds, the more people are willing to check it out, and we can just, yeah, continue to grow this happy little community. If you want, like I said, in my panels on my homepage, I've included my Instagram, my YouTube channel that the streams will end up on. So if people miss the stream or they want to rewatch for whatever reason, they can do that there. So I got YouTube, Instagram, and then, you know, if you want dog content, you can follow Shadow. So I'm teas_and_trees_please. So teas and trees, please. I'm hoping by the end of the month, because I had a Nostalgia Tash channel for a podcast I was doing, and I'm shutting that one down. So I'm hoping to steal that username back for myself, just to have everything be all cohesive. But yeah, so it's Teas and Trees, please, Nostalgia Tash, and then Shadow the Sighthound if you would like to follow my dog and get, you know, puppy content, because he's a really cute long boy. He's a Greyhound Saluki Whippet mix. He's a year old, and he's just, you know, a bundle of fun. And yeah, there we go. I think we will have to end it here, but thank you so much for joining me. The video stream drop rate CPU issues are ongoing, and we will hopefully fix that. maybe that involves me switching stations, but I hope not. Anyway, thanks so much for sticking around, and I will see you guys next week, Tuesday, 3 p.m. British time. Bye.